The gun goes off one time. Goes off one time.
Man.
And it hit me in my side, and it paralyzed me just instantly.
Instantly. Welcome back to the Real Producers Podcast. I'm your host, Rivington Ramsey, and today we have Corey Edwards from the Fort Lauderdale market. Heather Kaminsky, the publisher of Fort Lauderdale, says, Corey is truly a force to be reckoned with. The best word I could use for this incredibly talented and smart man is unstoppable. That's a pretty good intro right there, Corey.
Well, I appreciate that, man. You know, I really do.
We're going to get into your story. And obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you are interested in real estate or maybe a realtor yourself. Anyone who's on this podcast is as well. Corey, obviously, we're going to get into your success in real estate, but it didn't start that way. And I don't think you had intentions for getting into the industry back in high school when your life kind of got derailed, which is a pivotal point in your life. Do you want to share with us kind of your backstory on that?
Yeah. So, long story short, at the age of 17, I suffered a gunshot injury, right? It was an accidental gunshot where, a quote unquote so-called friend of mine, he came over to my parents' house and, we were young and dumb, right? So I grew up hunting and fishing, and my father had a gun cabinet in the basement because we were hanging out down there. And he says, "Wow, look at all those guns your father has." So, and they were all locked up in a glass, gun cabinet. And I said, "You know what? I got something else to show you." So I went upstairs, and I knew where my father kept his handgun, 38 handgun Beretta, and I took it downstairs to the basement, and I'm like, "Here, look at this right here. Look at look at this." And he started playing with the gun. And at that point in time, I had some clothes drying in a completely different room. And I says, "Yakini, I'm about to go get my clothes out of the dryer and just put the gun down." I got some clothes drying in the laundry room and in a completely different room. So I make a couple steps, I walk into the room, and then boom, the gun goes off one time.
Man.
And it hit me in my side, and it paralyzed me just instantly.
Instantly.
Yeah, instantly.
What's interesting about this story, Corey, is I assume you've told this story for decades.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it gets easier telling it. I imagine the first couple of times you told it wasn't as easy as it is now.
You know what? In the beginning, yes, right. But as I got older, this happened almost 30 years ago, right? So, I just wrote a book called 29 Years Later. So over the course of the years, my story just became easier and easier for me to tell, because I was young, I was in a shell, and at that point in time after my injury, and listen, I almost died that night, right?
Yeah. Well, the story doesn't end there though. So I mean,
it doesn't.
Doctors tell you you're never going to walk again.
Yeah.
But the next year you're already in school, right? Tell me about college.
Yeah. So I ended up going to Eastern Michigan University. Long story short, while I was in rehab, I was a year in rehab after my injury, and a social worker says, "Corey, when you turn 18, guess what you're going to be able to get?" And I mean, she was super excited to tell me. She says, "Corey, you're going to be eligible for food stamps, and you're going to be eligible for Social Security for the rest of your life," right? So,
and she was excited about that.
Yeah, she was excited, right? I mean, I wasn't, right? So, I grew up in the military, household. My father, spent 20 years in the Armed Forces, Air Force, And we were never on Social Security or food stamps, anything of that nature. So that changed my mind. That changed my mindset, right? So, and not only that, changing my mindset, um, my parents were taking care of me like I was a baby because I was in a wheelchair. So I'm like, you got to do something about this. So I ended up enrolling at Eastern Michigan University. Finished college within 3.5 years. I was in a wheelchair at that point in time, and I was just starting to move, have a little bit of movement after, being a complete paraplegic.
Can I pause you for a second?
Sure.
How long after the injury did you live at home before you went to school? A year?
A year and a half, about a year and a half.
That's not a really long time to get used to your new lifestyle. Now you're moving out of the house, which is hard enough anyway, leaving the house to go to college, and you've got this added bonus challenge of being in a wheelchair. And I'm not sure how wheelchair access friendly Eastern Michigan was, but I imagine that's pretty, to say the least. Yeah. Sorry. Keep going.
We're from the Midwest, man. So what happens in the winter, right?
Yeah. So, I would not want to be in Michigan during the winter. Yeah.
Yeah. So, never missed a day of school in college. For anything, I was the first one there in class, at least. Just making sure that, I beat the crowd. I got through the snow. I got through I got through the rain. I got through the sleet. I got through, all the headaches of the Midwest winter. And I pushed through. I made it through, man. So I ended up graduating 3.5 years later. I got a double majored in sociology and psychology. I was on my way to law school, and next thing you know, man, I'm writing mortgages.
So walk us through part of your story is depression, and rightly so. No one faults anyone for depression, but you soon were depressed right then after that. I'm curious. What's funny to me is I know the end of the story, and I just can't wait for you to get there. Yeah. But there's years of struggle, and not just with being paralyzed, but then depression on top of that. Right. What happened the first time when you got depressed?
Well, listen, I sat in the hospital for 4 months, right? From we're in high school, so we had kids coming to see me during that point in time, and asking me tough questions. Hey, Corey, you're gonna be able to have kids, or hey, Corey, you're gonna be rolling around in an electric wheelchair for the rest of your life. And not only that, you lose all your control, right? You lose your control because there's no feeling, and it was a really, really, really tough time in my life. I go from a basketball athlete, to next thing you know, I'm a complete paraplegic, and this is the new Corey overnight. Mm-hmm. So there were many times where I wanted to pull a plug, and not only that, just figuring out a way how I was gonna take myself out. So it was definitely a challenging and depressing time for me at that point in time.
What do you attribute to getting out of that depression the first time? Getting up and moving and going to college like that didn't just happen.
It did.
You had to make that decision.
Yeah. So, like I said, I didn't, I was staying at home. I had some, my parents was taking care of me, and And at that point in time, I got tired. I'm like, I'm like, they're not gonna take care of me for the rest of my life. I gotta get out. I gotta do something. Either, hey, if I'm gonna be paralyzed, and need help or need support for the rest of my life, I better get out and I better do something about it, because 5 years from right now, 10 years from right now, we gotta make it happen for myself. So that's when I started to leave home, and my parents, they didn't want me to leave. And I departed, man. I left. And probably one of the best decisions ever. Matter of fact, that was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
Sure. Yeah. And then you saw, massive success, graduated in 3.5 years. And now you're entering a new stage of your career, and you quickly rose to one of the top, let me see my notes, top lender in the nation for Quicken Mortgage.
I did.
So now you're on top of the world.
On top of the world, man. On top of the world.
And then what happened? What happened next?
So
any of us who are in the industry know where this is going. If you do the timeline.
2008, I'm telling you. So it was a complete stop. You go from it's like you're raising a baby, right? Yeah. You have a newborn, you're nurturing it, which is your clients. And you just see it grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And then next thing you know, it dies overnight, or it was a kill over or die over a 3 to 4, 5, 6 month time frame that just completely stopped. It just died. So, at that company, which is Rocket Mortgage right now, I was there 10 years, and 8 out of 10 years, I was number one in sales. I was top 150th, somewhere in that ballpark in the country as far as mortgage originations. Did phenomenal, 7 figures, many years plus, many homes, and then the market falls out, and I lose everything financially. Went through a divorce, and the whole world collapsed on me again. Adversity hits me against my head one more time.
And that's the second time you got depression.
You got it. Second time around. Yeah.
So we flash forward, and you're still here. And I know that mental health awareness is a huge deal to you. Obviously, it's a huge part of your story. Let's jump ahead to what I believe is, at least in this moment, the happy ending. You met your wife.
Right. Yeah.
Tell me what happened when she came into your world.
She's my savior, man. So, she's my motivation. So, she got me out of that. She got me out of that stage, right? Like, Corey, you can do this. You're great, right? I remember laying in bed one day, I had a gun on the side of my dresser. And I'm looking at my daughter. She had a picture, and I put the gun up to my head, right? That's how severely, mentally depressed I was. Yeah. And I seen my daughter's lips move. It was, and that saved my life. So not only that saved my life, but my wife did the same thing by pushing me out of that depression. Corey, we can do this. We can be teammates. We can build this together. We can get back into real estate and conquer the world. And guess what? We did.
You're talking about a picture on your bedside table of your daughter?
You got it. Yeah.
And you saw her lips move.
Yep. Daddy, don't do it, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we flash forward now. You wrote a book called 29 Years Later, talking about your struggle. The doctor said you would never walk again. You actually do walk now, using devices and canes, right?
That's right. Yeah.
What's interesting about this time is, if we interviewed you in 2008, it would be a very different interview. And I wonder, in the pre-interview, you and I talked about kind of what's going on right now with mortgages and the industry just coming to a halt right after a booming year. Right, I mean, it's been a crazy 3-year stretch, right? You have the 2020, you have the pandemic, and then you come out of it, real estate's actually popping. and then comes to a screeching halt. This would be another version of '08 for some people. So someone's listening to this who's actually in the thick of the weeds, and you're now having some of your biggest years ever in real estate. And that's after having a mountaintop and falling off that mountaintop and going into the valley. And that's where some people are. So can you talk to me about what you're seeing in this current state with, the way mortgages are going, with the way real estate is going, and how you're weathering that storm?
Yeah, it's nothing, for one thing, this is not '08, guys. This is just a correction in the market. There's not a dip in an enormous equity loss, right? Funding is still available. It just, the cost of capital is a heck of a lot higher than where it was a year ago, or where it was, a year and a half ago. And overall, this is a contact sport, right? Even in, '09, '10, when I had some of my best years, in real estate. 2016, I was, top individual agent in the world, real estate agent in the world, top 50 with Keller Williams Realty. So this is nothing new, right? It's a shock to the market. It's a shock to those who haven't been, who haven't seen, the cycles that I've had over, almost 30 years of being in real estate. This is just more of a contact sport. And before you probably only have to make half of a contact. Now you may have to make 25 to 30. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you just gotta this is all contact sport, and as long as you block your time to make those necessary calls, hands down you're gonna do great.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Before it was just easier. It's not that it's impossible now. If you have a contact sport, one contact, and boom, you make a sale. Now, if you know that you just have to do 20 or 30 more times, then you just have to do 20 or 30 more times to see that same success.
Right.
Pretty interesting. The last interview we had, last episode with Dick Richpoint, he said that he doesn't believe there's ever a bad time to be in real estate for a good realtor. And I'm hearing you say the same thing. It's never a bad time to be in this industry if you're good at your job and you hustle. So now you have said publicly that it's time for Corey to give back.
Said.
What does that mean to you? So few agents recognize their time to give back to the community. What does that mean to you?
That's it. Listen, I got 30 years of it's like a bottle, right? It's like a capsule. How you shake a bottle and it's getting ready to explode. So I'm screwing the cap off of that Fago, or off that 2-liter, and it's just going to pow. It's going to explode. So I am super, super excited to share my journey a little bit, but most importantly, give back and inspire others. Because if a man that hasn't wiggled his toes in 30 years, that's paralyzed from the knees down on both sides.
Yeah.
On both sides, I've made it to the top. Made it to the top. Hands down, you can too, as long as you have the proper mindset. So
what's next for Corey?
Speaking. So, I'm on a journey of speaking. We hired a CEO of our business, the Edwards Real Estate Group, to kind of take on that adventure, and speaking and giving back and pushing people to levels that that they think that they couldn't even imagine hitting. So that's my new journey.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast.
No problem,
Once again, this is Corey Edwards. You can find him in the Fort. Where else can we find you other than the Fort Lauderdale market?
Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and West Palm Beach. Yeah.
And your book, the website for the book, CoreyEdwardsMastermind.com. Is that where we can find the book and speaking?
Or you can go to 29yearslater.com. The links, feed to the same website, 29yearslater.com.
Awesome. Love the plug. This has been Real Producers Podcast. We are a national podcast, but we are a local magazine. We are currently in 124 cities. So if you've heard of us, that's probably why. If we're not in your city, we're looking to be in your city. So look us up on realproducersmag.com. Corey, thanks for being on. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.